Hello, this is Cindy Reed. I'm the Director of Academics for the Celebrant Foundation and Institute, and I am very happy to spend some time today speaking to you about our programs in celebrancy studies. We train people to become life cycle celebrants. And with me today is Charlotte Ouellette, one of the founders of the Celebrant Foundation and Institute, and our International Director. Charlotte?
Hello everybody, we're so happy that you took your time out from your schedule to be with us on our Open House webinar today. We'll talk about celebrancy, and I hope that it excites you and invigorates you. Thank you.
Welcome. The first thing we want to talk about is what is a life cycle celebrant? Lots of you have probably been to our website. Perhaps you've spoken to me or to Charlotte, and you've spent a little bit of time researching what it is. A celebrant, what I like to say, is a modern type of ceremony officiant. We're professional officiants, and how we differ from other type of officiants is that we really sit and listen to our clients and come to the table with no set agenda on what their ceremony should look like. We really use our expertise to craft a one-of-a-kind ceremony, a personalized ceremony, to bring their vision to life. Charlotte, as one of the founders, what is your understanding, a little elevator speech on what you would tell people a life cycle celebrant is?
A lot what you just said, Cindy. We are highly trained and certified. A lot of officiants out there are not. Our ceremonies that celebrants do are very much one of a kind and personal. They're meaningful. We work together with our clients, and that's something that's different too. It's not a cookie cutter ceremony that we create. We co-create. We listen to our client honorees and find out what they want in the ceremony and what they do not want in the ceremony. That's just as important. And at the end, we gift them a beautiful copy, a keepsake of their ceremony. It is their legacy. The whole ceremony process empowers them to create the ceremony that really rings true for who they are at the very core. And then we become their life cycle celebrant. A lot of celebrants do ceremonies for families over and over again, and also for their communities.
Excellent. I want to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of the program, what it would be like to be a student with us. To graduate, our students take 2 courses. Each of them is about 3 months long. Initially, all of you would take Fundamentals of Celebrancy. That's our core course, and it's a prerequisite to any certificate course that you might take. That is a ritual theory course, and I'll talk about each of these. I have a slide on each course to talk about them in a little more detail as far as curriculum. After that, you would choose your certificate course. We offer weddings, funerals, what we call ceremonies across the life cycle, which is a survey course, and ceremonies for healing. And when would your classes be? We start 3 terms each year. So there's 3 opportunities for you to begin your studies with us. We begin in the fall from October to December. We run a winter term that runs January to April. And we also run a summer term, which runs June through August. So if you enrolled, say, for our summer term, you would take Fundamentals from June to August. And then you would take your certificate course from October to December, and that's when you would become a certified life cycle celebrant. We teach in a couple of ways. We teach both what's called synchronously, which are real-time classes where we are all on the computer in a webinar format. And we do that once per week. You would have 1 real-time class per week with your instructor for an hour and 15 minutes, and we keep the sections small at about 10 to 12 students per section. We try to offer as many time slots as we can, a variety to meet all the people with different needs for their work schedules or the time zone that they live in. So we have day and evening sections, and we typically teach Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Our classes are all taught by our amazing faculty who are seasoned, experienced life cycle celebrants, bringing their expertise to you with our curriculum. Initially, as I mentioned, you all are going to take the Fundamentals of Celebrancy course. That's our ritual theory course. This is the course that gives you the basics, the building blocks of good ceremony. And it will sort of allow you to create a personalized ceremony for lots of different situations. We begin with ceremony structure. And what that means is that's the order in which you're going to put elements together. Elements in a ceremony for a wedding, for example, would be things like a reading, a music selection, a unity candle, the couple's love story, the kiss. And it makes a difference what order you put those in as a celebrant, because part of our responsibility is sort of to emotionally and logically guide people through that ceremonial experience. And we do that by looking at rites of passage theory. In life, we go through different rites of passage. We transform from one status to another. So in the case of a wedding, we'd be moving from an unmarried person to a married person. And we do that by separating from the past, having some transitional period, that would be a term of engagement, and then incorporating back into the community in our new status. And your ceremony is going to sort of metaphorically mark those rites of passage stages. We study the work of Joseph Campbell because he did great work in the hero's journey, which is the archetypal rite of passage, that's sort of wandering in the wilderness, learning wisdom and bringing that wisdom back to your community. Storytelling is an essential and kind of the hallmark part of a celebrant ceremony. For a wedding, we're going to tell the love story. For a funeral, obviously that would be the eulogy celebrating the deceased life. If you're doing a baby naming, perhaps the family was formed through international adoption, you would tell the story of how they chose that and what that journey was like to bring that child to their family and create a forever family. Symbolism is the language of ceremony. These are any objects that you might use to go richer and deeper. It's sort of the picture painting 1,000 words sort of example. So we can use an object, say a personal object like an heirloom baby blanket. Now, it's a utilitarian object that keeps the baby warm, but it's also something with great symbolic value. Perhaps it was knit or crocheted by the grandmother and passed down so it marks generations. It can also be a symbol of a parent's love for their child. It's an embrace of a family, so it's a symbol of that as well. So there's lots of ways to use those personal symbols that we discover through interviewing our clients and to bring those to really make each ceremony one of a kind. Finally, we reverse engineer a case study of a celebrant ceremony to look at all of these elements that we've studied and how they go together into making a final ceremony product, if you will. And there's also a ceremonial public speaking component to this class. I want to touch on that really briefly because I tend to get a lot of questions on it. This is one place where you will need to spend a little additional money in addition to your tuition to us, although some people are able to find vocal evaluators in their network of family and friends. But we're looking for someone with professional vocal training who can assess you as a ceremonial public speaker. We do have some names of people who've been approved in some of the major metropolitan areas in the past, and we'll give you a lot more information about that assignment when you join the class. We offer, as I mentioned, 4 certificate courses. This would be the second part of your program with us. Now you can double major. That's an additional $1,100 currently. But initially as part of your core tuition, you would take 1 certificate course. And the 4 that we offer you can see on the screen: ceremonies across the life cycle, weddings, funerals, and ceremonies for healing, going clockwise around that slide. I want to talk about each of those in turn. The wedding celebrancy class is our most popular class. Typically, most of the class wants to take this. I would say about 2/3 of our students initially in any class want to come through and become wedding celebrants. We begin there with client interviews. We talk about client interviews in the fundamentals class in general, how those work, but then in each certificate class, it's very different to interview, say, a happy couple rather than a family that's grieving the loss of a loved one. So we think about ways we provide you client interview forms, questionnaires that you can provide to your clients to learn their story. Everything that you want to get for your ceremony, we want to get enough information. So both in speaking to them and in getting their written answers, you can use all that information to write the ceremony, which is my second bullet there. Every class has a ceremony writing component. You're provided with a case study, and from that you use all that background information to create a personalized ceremony based on that scenario. We look at comparative rituals. There are lots of rituals that exist in different faith traditions and cultures around the world. And we also jump off from that, what we like to call reimagining ritual, so that you can take what's existing and look at what your clients are really interested in or what their vision is and their beliefs, and use this as a jumping off point to create something personal from what already exists. Primarily, your faculty members will bring from their experience their favorite teaching tools. Those are case studies of ceremonies they've performed. And for weddings, the different categories that we look at are ceremonies for interfaith couples, for those who identify as spiritual but not part of an organized religion, for our same-sex clients who are LGBT, looking at commitment ceremonies, civil unions, or in those states and provinces where it is legal, or countries, full-on marriages, and we are big supporters of freedom to marry here. And finally, those who are checking the box none on religious identification studies, those who are non-religious. And I just want to mention that in religious identification surveys, spiritual but not religious and those who identify as non-religious are the fastest growing demographics for religious identification. And these are the unaffiliated people who are looking for celebrants. So there is a great need for what you are doing. I like to call this module, Where Do I Sit? When Do I Stand? It's managing rehearsals and performing weddings, which is a really different skill set from writing and interviewing. So we really want to get into how do you manage a crowd in a wedding? How do you line up a processional? How can you troubleshoot common things that might happen with sound or with crying children or working with venue staff? And then each of our certificate courses contains a marketing component, looking for weddings at ways that you can list yourself on regional or national sites that people go to plan their weddings. That's really where most people are planning their weddings and looking for vendors, caterers, florists, venues, and officiants. And you can list yourself there and advertise and link it back to your killer website that you're going to make to promote yourself. I want to spend one moment on this, legal issues for wedding celebrants. Your celebrant certification alone is not sufficient to legally officiate weddings anywhere except for the state of New Jersey, where there is a newly passed law that allows for secular wedding officiants and is going into effect in the near future. In all of the other places where we have celebrants, there are ways to get the credentials you need to officiate. In most states, there are a couple of alternative non-denominational groups that work that are easy to get credentials through and will ordain you as a minister and provide you with the legal means to perform weddings there. And there are a couple of extra hoops to jump through, although we have people practicing in all of the jurisdictions mentioned in this final bullet. But you should just give us a call to make sure you understand the regulations and requirements in New York, Pennsylvania, parts of Virginia, and Canada. The next course that we offer is funerals. Again, we start with funeral ceremony rituals. When we look at ritual elements, it's sort of the ingredients that go in to make up your ceremony. And again, we look at those as they exist in religious and cultural traditions, and then how we can leap off from that to create personalized rituals. One of my favorite examples of that is one of our celebrants who is also a funeral faculty member. She did a ceremony for a man with grown children, an elderly man, and what they remembered about their dad was that he always gave them 35 cents as their allowance, a shiny quarter and a shiny dime, and he put it in one of those tiny envelopes like you might give tips to your hairstylist in a salon. And the ritual that they did is that all the grown children came up and tucked one of those little envelopes with their 35 cents into the casket with their father. So that's the kind of information that you can learn in an interview, and really that's one of a kind. Nobody else is going to have that, and it speaks so much to the love of that family, the connection of father and child. In funerals, in addition to the main ceremony, you're also in many cases going to have a ceremony separately for the disposition of the body, and this is typically done to one of the four elements. So you're interred into the earth, whether it's a casket or an urn. You may be cremated to the fire. Your ashes may be scattered to the air. Or in some places, our celebrants who live on the coast have been involved in scatterings at sea to the water. As I mentioned earlier, all our classes talk about interviewing, and in the case of funerals, what we're really looking at there are ways to get in. Often if you're faced with people who are in bottomless grief, part of your difficulty is getting enough, as I mentioned before, getting the information you need. So we look at ways to work with, say, family dissension. Funerals bring together lots of times people who haven't been together for a long time or maybe are outright estranged from each other. We look at ways to get people to talk or to show photos when they are unable to speak, perhaps in a funeral where there's a teenage girl who died. Can you look at her room? Can I see her swimming trophies? And get stories out that way. Because what we want is as much information as possible to do this storytelling, the celebration of life in the full-on celebrant eulogy. Here, our instructors also bring their case studies as teaching tools. The two categories that we typically look at that sort of divide up the different tones of funerals are what I call traditional funerals. Those are expected deaths after long illness or ceremonies for people who die in old age, as well as traumatic deaths. And these can be things like suicide, death from violence, death of young people or infants. And we have a couple of really great podcasts that we use to teach that. Two of our celebrants were involved in quite high-profile funerals for murder victims and what that was like for them. And one of them, it was actually her very first ceremony, and there was a lot of publicity surrounding it, so she actually had to deal with, press trying to get in, and how did she face those issues. And what she says in that is that even though it was kind of a trial by fire to be thrown into that as her first ceremony, she really felt that her education and preparation with the Celebrant Institute had prepared her for that. Finally, some of our celebrants are in a niche area, which is memorials or ceremonies for our animal companions, pet funerals, which is a growing area of interest. And we look at marketing for the funeral celebrant. Now, this is a little bit different. Obviously, you still want to have that great website as your calling card, but you're probably going to be doing more on the ground, face-to-face networking in your community. Lots of our celebrants get their referrals from funeral homes and from relationships they've developed with funeral directors. Some of our celebrants are in the much smaller area of home funerals, DIY funerals, and work with people in the home funeral network area. And then some of our celebrants are involved in hospice and are able to have clients referred to them through those associations. Ceremonies across the life cycle is a great class. It's a little bit different than the other two classes in that it is a survey course. We're going broad in this class. We are looking at every week a different type of ceremony that happens in our life cycle. We begin with ceremonies for leaving home and coming home, sometimes called a house blessing. The reason we start there is not because it's the beginning of the life cycle, but because it is your writing assignment for the course, and we want you to have that material right off the bat. And then we go back to the beginning, which is honoring expectant parents and welcoming children, whether through birth, adoption, or blended families through second marriage. And then we move to adolescent coming of age. We actually talk about coming of age in a couple of different ways, whether it is the traditional bar bat mitzvah age of 13, a sweet 16, a graduation from high school, or even a graduation from college. There's lots of different times that children come of age. The case study here is one of our instructors did a year-long process for her younger sister when she turned 16. Her younger sister had been adopted from a Native American tribe into her family. And so she looked at a lot of things, her identity as a person, spanning both of those cultures. She did community service to look outward. She journaled and developed ideas of how she might want to spend her future. And it culminated in her co-creating and co-officiating a ceremony of coming of age with the elder females in her family. Another coming of age is sort of for this third chapter in life, second and third, let's say. Men's and women's passages. For women, this is often marked by menopause and moving into what is sometimes called the crone era of our life. For men, it might be things like empty nest or retirement. And how to mark those changes in our status in life. Milestone birthdays, I guess you could also call these coming of age. It's really a way to mindfully mark the whole life journey, and we look at case studies from all along that spectrum, 25, 40, age 65, and then one for really an eldering or end of life celebration for an 85-year-old. Not all ceremonies mark rites of passage. Not everything that we can ritually observe is something where we're changing from one status to another. We also have rituals of sustenance, those things we can do on a repeated basis to mindfully mark our time on Earth. Those can be things like seasonal rituals or more simple personal rituals like meditation, a special tea ceremony that we might do, journaling, really all of those sorts of things that we can do on a daily, weekly, or seasonal basis. And again, as with all our courses, we have a marketing module for this course as well. Ceremonies for Healing is our newest course. It is an advanced course, which means that you need to either take simultaneously one of the other classes or be an alumni coming back for another certificate to take this class. And the reason for that is that we don't cover some of the basics in this, like writing, like interviewing, or marketing, that sort of thing. What we do cover each week is an amazing survey of ceremonies for healing. We talk about the boundaries between healing ritual and therapists to make sure that we're clear on that we are not therapists or counselors in doing this work. And then we look at case studies for people with life-threatening illness and how to ritualize that process from treatment, diagnosis, surgery, and perhaps survival. We look at healing in relationships, which either can be ceremonies to acknowledge divorce or ceremonies of recommitment after troubling or difficult times in marriage. We also have a week on job loss, healing in the workplace. More and more in our economy, people are being downsized, they're being laid off, and that is a huge part of our identity. And how do we mark that? There is also an opportunity in organizations that are going through changes, mergers, closing of plants or facilities to help those workers who either those who are leaving or those who remain behind to deal with those changes. We have a couple of weeks on personal ritual for difficult transitions. These are kind of a catch-all because there are so many possibilities. And what we want to do is provide you with as many case studies as possible so that you can sort of extrapolate from that to lots of different situations. Some of the great podcasts that we have here are for a prisoner transition ceremony, for a ceremony of gratitude after gender-confirming surgery, for ceremonies of validation for caregivers, whether for elderly parents or for children of special needs. There's just so much richness going on in the work of our Lifecycle celebrants, and in this class we bring that to you week after week with podcasts with those celebrants. We also look, whoops, I bounced slides there, at dying and bereavement, really the two bookends around the funeral itself, ceremonies for people who are in the process of dying and for their loved ones, and then ceremonies for the mourners who are left behind. There are also lots of opportunities for healing in community. The podcast we use here is for a celebrant in California who did a ceremony for a trailer park, a mobile home community that had been devastated by wildfire. So you're bringing together a lot of people, and so your ceremony is not typical in that you're not working with one client. And how do you work with a group of people who might be mourning in different ways? Celebrancy is also a viable career. One of the things I mentioned is that the demographics of people who are using celebrants are growing so quickly. But Charlotte has a lot of other reasons why this is a great career for people.
Well, you know, we have been given high regard from CNN, from Money Magazine, from Utney Magazine, Yoga Journal, a lot of magazines across the country. We've been here for over 13 years and still growing, and we have hundreds of celebrants, and some people even ring our bell if you hear it in the background, hoping to become celebrants one day. So a little sound effect. I don't know if you heard the doorbell in the background over here at the Celebrant Foundation Institute. But this is a position where you can make this a part-time career, or you can make it a full-time career. You can move from, let's say you're starting off full-time, and afterwards, after some years or whatever, you would like to make it part-time. So this is something that moves with you. It talks to you. If you just want to be able to do ceremonies for people in your community, or your friends and family. This is something that can also augment if you're a social worker or if you're doing other work in the healing arts. This is a wonderful way for you to integrate your past and your present together into a wonderful future as a celebrant. And also it moves with you. You might be living in Illinois and then decide to move to Florida. Whatever it might be, we do have celebrants from all over the world, from France, from Cambodia, from Spain, Japan, that are also celebrants, and I'm sure There will be other countries as well. There are celebrants in Australia and New Zealand that do this full-time and part-time. So you're not alone. You're a part of a family, and we'll talk about that in a moment also. But this is really something where it is a viable vocation. It's very meaningful, and people that have become celebrants, if they graduated last year, they graduated years before, it is just as meaningful to them. And you see on this slide the bridge, that is the class of 2005. And those celebrants, many, many of them, continue to do ceremonies full-time, part-time, and they also do something wonderful. They communicate with each other in our different chapters. They share ceremonies with one another. And so this is something, you have a lot of people, a network of people that are here to support you as you go forward. You're not alone, and the classroom experience is important, but just as important is your experience afterwards as a Lifecycle certified celebrant. We're here to assist you and nurture you as you go forward.
I mentioned earlier that one of the ways that we teach the class is through the real-time webinar. The other way that we teach is on our online classroom, and I just want to take you on a brief tour here so you can kind of see the technology tools that we use in the class. This is your landing page for the classrooms, and I'm going to take you in. Let's take you into Christine's classroom. I think I have access to that. Yes. So the classroom is set up in different bubbles of information. There are announcements here in the middle. I'm going to go down the middle first. We also, as I mentioned, use a lot of multimedia to teach the course. So there is a section on videos and podcasts here. And underneath that, you'll find your class files. This just is a way that we can organize the class. So every week, you'll see a new module pop up, Class 1, which I'm highlighting in orange, Class 2, and so forth. So all the text documents you need for the week are in there, as well as an outline, which is your roadmap for the week. So basically, you read and prepare for class, or listen, or view. You come to class and talk about the discussion questions on that outline. And then after class, you go to our message boards and complete any exercises or reflections that we have for you over there. We also have, I'm scrolling back up to the top again, a calendar where everything that you need to know for the course is, every deadline is calendared on there so you can easily check when your assignments are due or when you have class. And then any time that we want to send you out into the wilds of the World Wide Web, we'll post the link over here. So this is how you would get to your message boards, which I'm highlighting in orange, and also how you would get to your weekly webinar classes, which I'm highlighting in orange right now. So your online classroom is really where we store. It's a secure place to store all the stuff you need for class, as well as a portal to anywhere else you need to get in the program. Tuition for the course is $2,400. That covers fundamentals plus one certificate course. As I mentioned earlier, you can certainly double major. Lots of our students do, and that is an additional $1,100 for that second course. We offer a couple of different payment plans. There's a monthly plan, installment plan available, or you can pay in 2 parts. That's all outlined on our website for the details on that. And we accept credit card, check, or PayPal. And for those of you who register for one of our virtual open houses, there is a $25 discount for that. Below that, you'll see some of the members of our faculty at one of our annual conferences in New Jersey. We have an annual conference and graduation every year that you're invited to, every year, whether you're a new graduate or an alumni member. The application process is simple. It's all online. There's an online application form that you can link, that is linked on our website on our homepage. You attach a resume to that, which is just basically what your education and work background is. We're not real sticklers for format. We want the information. And if you have been out of the workplace, not to worry. You can just bullet point your life experiences. We also request a personal essay. We use this both as a writing sample, since writing is so important to the program and to the profession. It's also a place to show that you are passionate about our philosophy of serving people no matter what their beliefs and background are, and also a way for you to talk about your personal passion and journey to becoming a ritual specialist. Beyond the course, Charlotte mentioned this a little bit earlier when she was talking about alumni, is what a great community that we've built up of alumni celebrants. And Charlotte's going to talk to you a little bit about what happens once you graduate.
Yes, we have on our website a wonderful place where people for years and years now come, and if they're looking for a celebrant, we have our celebrants' photos and bios posted in their region, so they can simply, go to our website and review the celebrants' photos and bios and contact you immediately. That's something that's very important. So that's an advantage that our Celebrant Association members have. It's $175 a year. It's something that you can choose to be a part of. It is a tax deduction because we are also a nonprofit education organization, so we're proud and happy to offer that to you. And basically, we also have so many things to become a Celebrant Association member. Benefits. You become part of our worldwide family. You are also part of our social network. We have a live and thriving, fantastic network of Facebook. So in the middle of the night, if you're working on a ceremony and you're, I went to the Celebrant Association Institute's library, and I was looking around. There was wonderful ceremonies there and rituals, but I'd like to put a question out to my colleagues. Maybe they have something they can help me with. Well, sure enough, anytime you do that, there's people on board on our social networks, on our Yahoo group and our Facebook that are happy to assist you and send you information, or maybe you're going to be talking about your practice and professional aspects of it, or maybe you're gathering together with other celebrants and you want to make a meeting place or make a presentation. That's another thing that we do, is help you with making presentations either with your colleague celebrants or on your own. If you'd like to go to a funeral home and making a presentation there, or you're at a university and you want to go and make a presentation on the importance of ceremony and rituals, if you're going to hospice and possibly wanting to make a presentation there. So we have these kinds of professional created presentation by celebrants that have actually been in the field and have this kind of experience, that have created for us and for you these sorts of presentations. So these are the things that are available to you, and we help you in being able to do a couple of things. Number one, making you a successful, happy celebrant, and then also we are here to make the word celebrant, Lifecycle Celebrant, a household word. Just to go back a little bit, we want to let you know that this started in Australia, and the Attorney General Lionel Murphy at that point in time, back in the 1960s, created the movement. So that's nice to know that we have this history. And as Cindy mentioned, that in New Jersey, our governor recently signed into the bill that certified civil celebrants can legally officiate at weddings. These are important things that are happening that we are behind for you. We are making sure that you are a successful celebrant, that people in the world realize that this is a choice that they have in their life, to have a ceremony that really, echoes who they are at the very core. And so we also have regional celebrant chapters. Wherever you may be, we most likely have a chapter. There are some places we're not, but we're working on it. So these are groups of celebrants that get together. We also have, somewhat of a graduation for you in your area. If you can't make it out to New Jersey, we have celebrants that get together and assist one another, as we mentioned. There's so many things. And then also the last point on the screen, we're going to talk about the annual graduation, and that happens most every year physically in beautiful Montclair, New Jersey, which is about maybe 12 miles from New York City. So you could fly in, or if you're in the area, drive up and join us for a beautiful day in spring. We're usually at the Van Vleck Gardens and Arboretum that is just busting with blossoms, and we have a wonderful graduation ceremony with and for you. Our celebrants bring their families. They come from far and wide. We have a delicious meal of usually exotic foods from around the world. This year we're doing some wonderful world drumming, so that's cool. And also what we're going to be doing is we always have a collective wisdom conference where celebrants from around the world and different organizations or people in the biz that are important for them to come and speak with us. and we have this Collective Wisdom Conference, and it's free to our Celebrant graduates that year. Our alumni come in, and they also, partake, or sometimes they are they're guest speakers. So this is something that we do. We collect our wisdom, we share it with you, and as time goes by, you collect your wisdom and come back to us and share it with us. So many of our Celebrant teachers, as you know, in fact all of them, are experienced celebrants, and so this is something that we are a family. We are celebrants teaching celebrants, we are celebrants learning from celebrants, and we are also students of life. The world teaches us these lessons, and we listen, we learn, we watch, we observe, we taste all that life has to offer us, and we are life cycle celebrants, ready to face the world and help the world in a beautiful way while making a wonderful career, and not only just a profession but a passion for ourselves. Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you, Charlotte. This last slide has our contact information. If you have more questions, we welcome all of your questions to make sure you understand exactly how the program works and what it's like to be a life cycle celebrant. And I'm going to let Charlotte wrap us up for today with some words, since she's been with us the longest of all of the American celebrants.
I just, Cindy and I want to thank you for your interest. At some point down the line, you saw an ad in a magazine, maybe Yoga Journal, maybe Natural Awakenings, maybe, Spirituality and Health, or maybe a friend of yours is a celebrant, or you went to a celebrant ceremony and you said, oh my goodness, this is amazing. You had an aha moment. And let me tell you something. We all, Cindy and I, we had that aha moment, saying to ourselves, huh, I want to be a celebrant, and I think I have been a celebrant all my life. I just didn't know there was a group of us. So basically, this is who we are. We feel very enthused about this profession. It's a calling in many ways for many of us, and we just welcome you all to find out more about us. If you'd like to see this webinar once again, or join us in the future, talk to other celebrants that have graduated from our organization, we're here for you, and we're very happy and proud to be celebrants, and we welcome you with open arms. We do ceremonies for people from all walks of life, not just the folks that would fall into the category of what is a religious institution. People that really need a celebrant to speak with them, to listen to them, to create ceremonies with and for them. This is huge. This is where the world is coming to. We're blending people's interests and families and cultures and everything. So this is a perfect time. Let me say it again, this is a perfect time for celebrants. And we thank you very much, and have a lovely day, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.